Thank you. Hello, Frederick. How's it going?
Doing pretty well. Can you hear me?
Yep. Where are you calling from?
I am calling from Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. Okay.
So this hand is played out of TCH Dallas.
TCH Dallas.
This is the uncapped 2-5 game.
Uncapped 2-5. Ooh, the uncapped 2-5 game.
Or I suppose match the stack 2-5 game.
Match the stack 2-5. I have never had the pleasure of playing at TCH Dallas. I mean, I remember when it opened, I was there in Austin because I helped them put up, started the TCH live stream, which seems to be kind of a shell of what it once was. I mean, I look at the videos and the video numbers, the views, and, I'm into like the whole YouTube analytics stuff because we actually just got 100,000 subscribers for CLP YouTube. So I'm always in there, like, look, it's fun. I always look at I consider myself a YouTube kind of analytics expert. I mean, I remember when I was helping them out, cutting some of the best of shows for TCH, that there were some months where they would get almost 1 million views. And when I'm not talking about shorts, but I don't know what happened. Now, like, I see them with like 3 views, like on Twitter, like trying to like do like a live stream, like on Twitter, on X, and they don't really cut up like highlight videos anymore. But I will say that I have heard that TCH Dallas is just unbelievable. Although did another room, am I confusing this with Houston? But did they open another room that took all of their own action?
Exactly, yeah. TCH Social is like a 10-minute drive away, and the 2-5 is a 1500 cap there, and then the 5-10 and 10 quarters are both uncapped, and those run nightly.
Mm-hmm.
So they've kind of got a split player pool, but there's just so much action that like they fill both rooms every night, so it's not really.
So how many like of these 2-5 how many games are there every night of like 2-5 match or higher in the Dallas
I
area?
would say on the weekdays, the match game is only at Dallas, and they will maybe get it off. Like it usually doesn't run. So I mean, I usually play 1-2, and I'd kind of been waiting for the 2-5 game to like get going.
What about at social?
That game runs 6 to 10 tables every night. Like that game is
6 to 10 tables of match a stack 2-5 every night.
It's social. It's a 1500 cap.
Oh, okay.
So it's capped, but it's still, I mean, 300 effective. So.
Of course. And then they have a bigger game that they'll play sometimes too.
Yeah, I would say the 5-10 and 10 quarter run 5 days a week, 6 days a week.
Wow, that's
popular.
That's definitely crazy action in Dallas. Like I said, I never got a chance to play, but I've heard, these places like Parks and TCH Dallas. I mean, they might have the most games now. Used to be Commerce, right? But yeah, that's amazing. All right, so you're playing in essence an uncapped game because it's match the stack. But what you're saying is that it's in the first Dallas room, and it's not capped at 1500. They've kept the old rules of match the stack, which I'm accustomed to. Texas 2-5, which plays like a 10-20. Sounds to me like when they opened TCH Social, somebody had the idea, maybe we should cap this game, right? Be better for the player pool. That's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But they didn't change it here. All right. So match the stack 2-5. Okay. And how deep are you?
In the format of this game, the game has only been running for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And I got in specifically to start the game so that it would be a little bit smaller. So I've run it up a little bit. Now I have about 2,400. Yeah, 2,400 effective.
By the way, do they play double board PLO bomb pots in these games?
They do play double board PLO bomb pots in these games. Every dealer change. So
awesome.
About 2 an hour.
Oh, great. Okay, so 2,400 effective. Yep.
So I'm in the +1, and the under the gun player limps. I make it 20, and the low jack 3-bets me to 70. So the low jack, I have a little bit of information on. I have seen him hanging around and playing with a very strong 5-10, 2-5 player that I know of and have watched on live streams. So I knew that this player was, a reg. I knew he was out of town, so he came in from out of state and was playing in the game, and then immediately matched when he sat down. Then got coolered and matched again. So when I see players doing this immediately tells me either they're really strong or that it's a whale.
Is he a younger guy?
Yes, he's I think he's 20 or 21.
Well, back in the day, it's funny, like before the poker boom, before Moneymaker, anytime you'd see a young guy, you would absolutely know he was a fish. Then when I was cutting my teeth, if you saw a 20 or 21-year-old, you'd be like, oh, chances are the kid's good. He's been playing online. Nowadays, you never know. I would tend to think if you see a 20 or a 21-year-old, like he probably would be a fish more so than a good player, just because we don't have online poker. But who knows? I mean, maybe not. Usually you don't see somebody who's 20 or 21 with a lot of money. So that's when I was cutting my teeth. We knew that a kid like that would be good because he had money to keep doing this, right?
Yeah. I
So,
mean, from my perspective, I've already spoken to a mutual friend and know that this player's a reg.
okay. Okay. Yeah. So he three bets to 70. Uh-huh.
It folds back to me, and I decide to four bet to 260 here. I don't know if I've said, I have pocket tens with the 10 of clubs and the 10 of hearts.
I think you might have did that and I didn't put up, but thank you. 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts. So hero to 20 with 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts, low jack, three bets to 70, limper folds. And then hero four bets to how much?
260.
And why did you decide to four bet here? You just thought that you'd had the best hand. Nobody's dead in between here, right?
Yeah, I've seen him do some three betting, so I think that he's probably three betting a little bit wide. And we're really we're really deep. So this felt like a good spot to take the aggressive line. I'm gonna do some mixing here.
Do you think that he's ever three bet folding? And that could be, even if, and the answer is no, maybe it could be a good, then that's a reason to four bet for value. I just, you are going to be out of position, obviously. Somewhat deep,
I assumed so, but I'm not obviously still no.
So did he call?
He does call, and we go to a flop that is king four deuce rainbow, king of clubs, four of diamonds, deuce of hearts.
King of clubs, four of diamonds, deuce of hearts. And the pot is
525.
525, 525, 530. All right. So king four deuce, again, hero four betting 10-10. Here it gets three bet by this young guy that's a reg, but we don't know if he's good or not in the low jack.
I decide I'm going to check. I'm going to do a lot of checking out of position in 3 and 4 bet pots.
Like the Mark Goon style?
Indeed.
That's interesting. I know Mark Goon talked about that. Usually in four bet pots, you do a lot of range betting in certain situations. A lot of small betting, right? I mean, you would tend to default here and do a lot of small betting. I think what Mark has been talking about is because of that, when you do check, people will somehow deem that as either very, very mediocre, like a hand like nines through queens, or just very strong, like sandbagging, like, king, king, and not have. So you're saying that you're checking like aces here, you're checking ace, king.
Yes, exactly. I'm gonna check everything, unless we have some weird board, like a monochromatic board.
So
I check and he goes 200, and I decide to call.
well, you can never fold, right?
Of course.
I think I know where we're going with this one, where I'm going to predict. I do remember somewhat, but I'm just going to say, like, obviously, like, if you're looking from somewhat of an optimal type of standpoint, or theoretically, when you do this in a given situation, most of the time this flop is going to be a bet with a lot of your range almost always. Now, you're talking about making a live deviation where you are checking a lot as a deviation. So where this is going, really, if you're going to get fired at, which it seems like maybe this is going to happen multiple times, I think maybe where this is going is like, how thin does somebody go for value at the end? I'm getting ahead of myself because I don't even know if that's going to happen. But low jack goes 200, hero calls, pot is what, 925?
Thereabout, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
925, 930.
Okay.
Turn is the 3 of diamonds, bringing in a backdoor diamond draw and completing the wheel.
Yep.
I check again and flow, and he bets 500.
Well,
and to this place, I started thinking about what he's going to be doing pre-flop calling.
mm-hmm.
And it occurs to me that kind of all of the value hands at this spot are now traditionally things that would be 5-bet. Now, I don't know if he has a 5-bet range. I'm assuming that, I mean, this being Texas, people tend to like to 5-bet, especially in position.
You're saying that you don't think that he bets the turn with king queen here?
I think that king queen is like the last thing that he's still betting the turn with
Mm-hmm.
that would not wind up in a 5-bet range. Because
Right.
if I start thinking of like aces, kings, ace king suited, some of the ace king off, and then ace 5 suited, things that we like traditionally put in a 5-bet range,
Right.
I think that is like almost the entirety of a value range here. So when he bets 500 here, I feel like he's over polarizing, and the portion of the value range that would traditionally be there isn't there because he would be putting them in a 5-bet range.
If it was just ace king or aces, I mean that's why I kind of cut to the chase and said like you don't, do you think king queen is betting here, because king queen obviously would not be a 5-bet. The thing that I'm thinking about here though too is that some of these hands that he starts to bluff with either make it on the turn or pick up extra equity if they are ace high types of holdings that now pick up a wheel. That there's something has to be said for that in terms of when you're ahead, the fact that your opponent picks up some extra equity. Now, depending on what he would start a bluff with, I mean, I'm not talking about like queen jack or something like that. That doesn't pick up extra equity, but something that contains an ace. But like if he were to start some sort of bluff, like ace jack, ace 10, ace queen, do those hands start some sort of bluffs? I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like you're getting, I mean, obviously you're getting right around 3-1. So, I mean, the only thing I would say though is that it's definitely a live dynamic type of spot where we're already off the rails with theory anyways, based upon the way this is played. What I would say is that if you're going to call here, then are you expecting the guy to shut down? Are you check folding like if he goes for it, or are you just always calling at the end because he's not value betting anything but those hands that you thought he was going to 5-bet with pre, right? Like ace king plus.
Right.
Because I mean, if you call and then the river's an 8, he's not going to like move all in with king queen, right? I mean, let's cut to the chase, right? And if you think he's 5-betting ace king, I think this is where we're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's
exactly my thought process along the way.
Yeah. So you called here again?
I do. And the river is a 9 offsuit.
But even still, just even if we make that assumption, if we make all those assumptions where he's like, oh, well, if he bets, he becomes very, very polarized here on this river offsuit 9. He still has king queen though that goes check check and you lose. You know what I'm saying? So, this could be a fold on the turn as played. I mean, you're still losing to some king, pairs of kings that bet turn that might just check back the river. It's not like you can improve. So it kind of reminds me sometimes of like when you're in a situation where you're not 100% sure if you have the best hand. Sometimes actually having a pair, like maybe you'd prefer to have like 5-4 here on the turn than 10-10 or ace 4. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you have way more outs than if you have 10-10, where if you're behind, you only have 2 outs. It's like one of those types of spots, We
would rather be calling with portions of a range that have more opportunity to improve.
More equity, yeah, for sure. All right, so king 4 deuce 3, river's a 9, pot's 19-25, okay. I assume you check.
I do check, and he goes all in.
I mean, again, at this point, it's kind of like, let's just say that, what do we think his jamming range here is?
I mean, for value, I think it's ace 5, aces, kings, and ace king.
Yeah, but you didn't think that he thought he was going to 5. I mean, I'll wrap this in a bow. But we don't know. We don't know if he doesn't have a 5-bet range. If he has a 5-bet range and he's 5-betting like aces and some ace king, right? Then it's hard for him to have a value hand here. Just the way that if he's checking back king queen, it's hard for him to have a value hand here.
That was my thought exactly.
Except for ace 5, Right. I mean, if he's got ace five, right.
When he doesn't check back, I feel like I have to call. I mean, obviously he checks back and we lose a lot here.
Right. But you almost are saying I called with the intention. I'm calling the turn with the intention of calling the river, even though I recognize that it might go check on the river and I lose. Is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I can get behind a call on a fold on the turn.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the way that it boils down. So, but we don't know. You don't know if he's not always having a 5-bet range. Like if he calls with everything and he doesn't have a 5-bet range, it's very problematic because then he still has aces and he still has ace king. So I mean, I understand why you call. I'm assuming that you call, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what ended up happening?
He flashes, like just immediately says you're good and flashes the 8 of hearts and another heart.
Hearts. Oh my god.
I'm not really sure. I couldn't tell what the other card was. I saw hearts on it, but not sure.
Wow. Well, that whole thing about checking, again, talking about giving somebody rope to hang themselves, kind of short circuits when you do something a little bit different, right? Like checking like a board that's traditionally bet all the time. I think that's where Mark Goon was going with sometimes checking 3-bets and 4-bet pots when everybody else does it. It just gives your opponent kind of rope to hang themselves. You just get into some very, very awkward situations. This is much like the previous call on the sort of the small bet size. Like you're going to have to call down a lot. But the problem with this hand, though, is that you're still losing to a lot of stuff that bets turn and checks back river. So I don't know if I've ever thought about a hand where I'm like, I'm calling the turn and I'm going to call a jam on the river, but I acknowledge that it might go check on the river and I lose. That's kind of an interesting one. I can get behind what you're thinking about here, but I don't know if we can make all those assumptions when it comes to pre-flop 5 betting range. But thank you. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.